A very good evening. Many thanks for joining us on Nationwide, live on the network service of the NTA. I am Ifoma Ojinta. The federal government has directed the police to unravel the circumstances surrounding the gang rape and murder of a female student of the University of Benin, Vera Waila Omozua in Benin, and the serial sexual abuse of a minor in Jigawa State by 14 men, with a view to bringing the perpetrators to justice. In a statement issued by the Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, bringing the perpetrators of the heinous crimes to justice, the federal government will be serving a strong notice of its total aversion to gender-based violence in whatever form. The minister described the gang rape and murder of Ms. Omozua in Edo State as a cruel and barbaric act that offends human sensibility in addition to being antithetical to decency, saying no society will tolerate such depravity. He also said the serial sexual abuse of a minor by 14 men in Jigawa State is not only repulsive but highly condemnable. He pointed out that the true measure of a society can be found in how it treats its most vulnerable members. The federal government, Lai Mohammed added, will do everything possible to stem the growing tide of gender-based violence in the country. The Senate has approved the external loan request of $5.5 billion by the executive, with emphasis on spending the funds on projects earmarked for it. It also approved the revised medium-term expenditure framework 2020 to 2022 and the fiscal strategy paper with amendments. This followed the consideration of reports of its Committee on Finance, which recommended an upward review of the benchmark for price of crude oil per barrel from $25 submitted by the executive to $28. Senate has confirmed 37 nominees as chairman and members of the Federal Character Commission, with Dr. Muyiba Farida Nkaka as chairman, while James Gia Kolo is to replace late Daniel James Kolo from Kwara State. It also confirmed the appointment of Dr. Frederick Ekwem and Dr. Jonah Madugu as commissioners for the Federal Civil Service Commission. Meanwhile, the legislators have condemned the killing of Tina Ezekwe in Lagos by stray bullets and Uwa Omozua. At about midnight of June 1st, the Nigeria Center for Disease Control has reported 416 new cases of COVID-19 in the country. The breakdown shows that Lagos has 192 cases, Edo 41, Rivers 33, Kaduna 30, Kwara 23, Nasarawa 18 and Borno has 17 new cases, while FCT records 14 new cases. Others are Oyo has 10, Katsina 7, Abia and Delta have 5 each, Adamawa and Kano 4 new cases each, Imo and Ondo have 3 cases each, Benue, Bauchi and Ogun 2 cases each, while Niger State records 1 new case. On the whole, Nigeria has 10,578 cases of COVID-19, out of which 3,122 were discharged, while 299 patients died of the virus. Ekiti State's Governor, Dr. Kayode Fayemi, has inaugurated a molecular laboratory for testing of COVID-19 patients in the state. Kola Adebobuyi reports that this will up the fight against the spread of coronavirus in the state.
The state government has been battling with the stress and fund of taking the samples for COVID-19 tests to nearby Ede in Osun State, Lagos, and Federal Capital Territory, even with over 200 tests carried out so far in the state. This, the state government says, necessitated the procurement of the molecular laboratory equipped with vital testing instruments and biosafety materials to support COVID-19 testing to save lives of Ekiti people from the pandemic.
As a government, we remain resolute in ensuring that the residents of the state are protected, and we will continue to prioritize the safety of all and sundry within and around Ekiti State.
Meanwhile, as a means to cushioning the effects of the COVID-19 lockdown, the National Youth Service Corps, NYC in Ekiti State, has extended hands of fellowship to some residents of various communities in the state, with presentation of food items and face masks, as well as sanitizers to the people.
Because of the coronavirus and its effect on the people, we can assist by giving out a little of what we have. We share it with the public. NYSC cares about the people.
They were also sensitized on the precautionary measures against COVID-19 in Ado-Ekiti. Kola Adebobuyi, NTA News.
The third discharged COVID-19 patient in Benue State urged residents to voluntarily go for testing to know their status and nip the coronavirus in the bud if they test positive. She said this while interacting with correspondent Sandra Dowuse Akeme at the Federal Medical Center, Makurdi.
The third case, who had been in the isolation and treatment center for some days undergoing stages of treatments leading to her discharge after testing negative. The survivor narrated her experience and said she is overwhelmed by the care and support given to her during the period.
I want to tell everybody, stay safe. Now I am pleading with everybody, stay away from me. Because I am clean.
The medical director of the Federal Medical Center, Dr. Peteru Inundu, and the State Commissioner for Health and Human Services, Dr. Sunday Ongbabu, expressed fulfillment in the progress achieved so far in the handling of confirmed cases.
To us and the people of Benue State, it's a thing of joy. So far, we have admitted 4 patients and about 10 or so for isolation.
The one thing that is particular, the 2 patients we've had, these were people who completely subjected themselves to treatment. So there was no crisis of somebody trying to deny.
In Makurdi, Sandra Dowise Akeme, NTA News.
In compliance with the federal government's easing of the lockdown imposed to curb the spread of the coronavirus, Kano State government releases guidelines and established protocols on how to manage access to markets and locations of economic activity to limit the risk of transmission. The State Commissioner for Information, Malam Mohammed Garba, says in a statement that after due consultations with key public health professionals and critical review of the situation in Kano, markets, places of worship and movements of persons are now allowed on Sundays, Wednesdays and Fridays from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. The statement further emphasizes that it is necessary for such places to ensure compliance with safety rules that include mandatory use of non-medical face masks, provision of hand-washing facilities and sanitizers, and extensive temperature checks. The Commissioner points out that while these restrictions have been lifted, interstate movements, except for goods, agricultural produce and essential services, is still in force. He says as schools will remain closed, Malam Garba also commends the people in the state for their patience and understanding in the face of the restriction order. And as part of efforts to cushion the transportation difficulties occasioned by the coronavirus disease, Rivers State has donated 28 luxury buses to convey commuters free. Ogedi Nyekwere reports that the buses will ply major routes in Obiakpo, Port Harcourt City, Eleme and Oyibo local government areas.
Commissioner for Transport Sonny Ejeko said basic protocols of social distancing and wearing of face masks are criteria for entering the buses. He said the buses will operate from 6:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. during the week.
To board this bus, it is a necessary condition that the passenger must have his nose mask on. We have sanitizers. His hands will, of course, be sanitized.
Commissioner for Information Paulinus Insirim said the initiative demonstrates how passionate the governor can be in ensuring that Rivers people enjoy good leadership.
You have a governor who is desirous to make sure that you don't suffer. And so it's for Rivers people and those living and doing business here to reciprocate this kind of gesture by supporting the government.
Commuters who were on board were appreciative of the innovation and prayed God for the governor. The 28 buses will ply major bus stops in Obiakpo, Port Harcourt City, Eleme and Oyibo local government areas. In Port Harcourt, Ogedinyekwere, NTA News.
The House of Representatives has considered and approved the federal government's 2016-2018 external borrowing plan of $22.798 billion, which was forwarded by the President to the National Assembly in 2019. The loan, which was sourced from the World Bank, German Development Bank, Islamic Development Bank, and China Exim Bank, among others, is for the execution of key infrastructure projects of the federal government. During the consideration, House Speaker Femi Gbajabiamila recalls that the external borrowing plan was last year approved by the Senate, but was stepped down for consideration at the House following observations that projects captured were not evenly distributed across the geopolitical zones of Nigeria, as the northeast and southeast were left out. This warranted a provision in the approval following consultation with the executive, which reads that the federal government should, in the next borrowing plan, accommodate the two zones by sourcing funds from the Port Harcourt-Maiduguri rail line. Plenary also featured the passage of the Nigeria Police Repeal and Reenactment Bill, which makes provision for partnership between the police and host communities in maintaining peace and protecting lives and property. Meanwhile, the House has resolved to investigate the activities of Night Comsat from inception to date over allegations of misappropriation of funds, as moved by House Minority Leader Ndudi Elumelu. Now, the Federal Capital Territory Administration has issued a 7-day ultimatum to owners of mechanic workshops, automobile dealers, and other occupants who illegally carry out various trades along the Apo Road corridor known as the Outer Southern Expressway to vacate the areas. Chairman of the newly constituted FCT Ministerial Task Force on City Sanitation, Ikaru Atta, says this is in line with the FCT Minister's resolve for an aggressive city sanitation. We're sorry we can't bring you the report now, as we have to, go for the PTF daily briefing.